And we are back, and in studio we have with us this morning Tyrone Chimilio, who is the Communications Officer at the Belize Solid Waste Management. Here to talk to us about their pilot projects in the tourist areas in Placencia, I assume Kikaker, Hopkins and Pedro.
Yes.
Good morning.
I don't want to speak ahead of my time.
No, go ahead, man. The floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Well, allow me to reintroduce myself to the audience. My name is Tyrone Chimilio. I'm the Communication Officer for the Belize Solid Waste Management Authority, Ministry of Natural Resources, Petroleum and Mining. And like I said, everything feels brand new. You know, I don't used to been a while. John, no, it's brand new faces, so that's a good thing. So now I'm talking about a new and exciting project that we're going to bring to the forefront. Yeah. But before I speak about that, let me just give you a background about the Belize Solid Waste Management Authority, because there are persons who would be interesting to know exactly what do we do. Well, the authority is in charge of safe transfer and disposal of waste that we receive from our transfer stations. We have 5 transfer stations in country, and that was a part of what we call our Western Corridor project. We call it the Belize Solid Waste Management Project 1, where we're able to construct these transfer stations, and our final disposal site is at the Regional Sanitary Landfill located at mile 24. We also have what we call the Belize Solid Waste Management Project 2 that we're currently implementing as well. So we have constructed new transfer stations within other municipalities. I think just before I move on, I missed the fact that these transfer stations that we currently have operational, we have a transfer station in Belize City, San Pedro, Kikaka, San Ignacio, and Burrell Boom. So waste that is received at those transfer stations, what happened is that we have what we call the recyclers. They extract or they recover the recyclable material from the mass waste. The residual waste, meaning the waste that we're not going to do anything else with, that is then transferred to the regional sanitary landfill for final disposal. So that's the current system that we have in place. When it comes to the newly built transfer station on the Solid Waste Management Project 2, we have transfer stations that have been built in Corozal, Untitled, Belmopan, Dangriga, Placencia, and Punta Gorda. So those additional transfer stations, they have been built, but they're not operating as yet.
You know, not to interrupt you, Mr. Tremino, but I think it's interesting to hear what happens at these transfer stations, because most Belizeans, to tell you the truth, aren't fully aware. We see them, we know they're built because we saw when they're under construction. If you travel the highways, not only that, but we know that they have something to do with garbage. But in terms of what really takes place at the transfer station, I think we haven't been given a lot of access to see what happens there. And so sometimes I pass, and in my mind I'm like, do we have people in there actually separating the waste? Is it that there's a machine that crushed? I don't fully know. So help us understand a bit of what happens at the transfer station.
It's good that you've asked that question, because we're going to get a little bit about it when I speak more about the TC.
Okay.
At these current transfer stations that we have, and this is the mindset that is very important and very critical to the waste management sector, is that changing the mindset and changing the process of how we actually look at solid waste. People think that waste is just, you just take the garbage and you put it in a bin and then that's it. But there's so many other aspects that is very dynamic to waste management. You have to look at the administrative, you have to look at legal, you have to look at the geographics, you have to look at the scientific analysis that you need to execute a proper disposal system, period. And when we look at what we've been able to accomplish over the last 10 years, for example, before this project, Solid Waste Management Project 1 even existed, we had dump sites. We had dump sites burning.
And that's what everybody is used to.
Everyone was used to it. No.
Are those still like in existence?
Dump sites? It's gone. It's dead and gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, because we still see dump site locations.
I don't know if it's dead and gone. I think that you have, especially people in the rural areas where you're not monitoring.
I'm going to talk about that later on, but it's good. It's good because you see, this is the thing. Those municipalities currently benefiting from the transfer stations that we have, They don't have those problems that we had decades ago because there's no more dump sites. Transfer stations exist in San Ignacio, Belize City, San Pedro, Kikaka, and Borough Boom. So that is there. That's the changing of the mindset. Now, let me speak about the TC. Now, the Belize Solid Waste Management Authority, through the Inter-American Development Bank, with the Japan Quality Infrastructure Initiative, now we're implementing what we call a technical cooperation, which is an agreement to be able to support us in the recovery of the recyclable fraction of the waste. So it's basically a pilot project that we're executing in 2 pilot areas. So we're focusing on waste reduction and source separation, reuse, and recycling. So people always talk about waste management and they talk about disposal, but we don't necessarily think about how is it that we could be able to participate and to ensure that we make an impact on our environment. Before I came on the program, I see that the pastors, they were talking about the environment, which is we live in an environment that we need to take care of. So when we talk about waste management, that is where us as the people who live in this country have to be very cognizant of the fact that proper waste disposal is important. So when I go all across this country teaching and preaching, at the end of the day, I tell everybody my role as a communication officer in waste management, including our staff and our administrative people and all other people within the waste management sector, we're very important people. That's my swag. At the end of the day, I'm as important as a BTL man or a BEL man or a man from BWS because waste management people, man.
Imagine we weren't managing waste.
Exactly.
Right. And there lies my question when it comes to reducing your carbon footprint and what's not. Do the fact that we recycle our bottles, the fact that we maybe stop using plastic, how much of that actually helps us? And the reason I ask is because the garbage goes somewhere.
Exactly.
And we don't really know where it goes. After you guys finish with it, where does it go?
Well, this is the thing about this project. We're moving away from a linear economy to more of a circular economy now, especially in our time. We have these issues with climate change, and we are moving into a plastic crisis. So too much plastics is being created through the TC now, and I want to bring this back into focus. Is that through this project, it's a pilot project taking place within Placencia and Kikaka. So what we want to be able to accomplish is the source separation, which is the main target of this actual project. So what we're looking at is that we have these communities, we have specific communities that we'll be working with in Placencia and in Kikaka. Those individuals who will be with us, we have our campaigners, we have our sorters, we have people who will be washing and etc. But within those homes, they'll be able to separate what they have generated. So for example, you will take out your PET bottles, the HDPE bottles, you'll rinse them, take the labels off, place them in the bag, you'll take that bag and you'll put it out, and then we'll have someone who will pick up that on a specific day. The reason for that is that what we want to be able to do is to introduce what we call a national source separation policy. That's where we are moving into. The reason for that, solid waste management project 2 transfer stations, like I mentioned before, they are in different municipalities. The process for that is very important because what we will do when those transfer stations become operational will be long hauling waste from Corozal, Orange Walk, Punta Gorda, Placencia, Dangriga, Belmopan to one location, which is the regional sanitary landfill. We cannot just take all of the accumulated waste and take it there because, of course, it's critical to expand the lifespan of our landfill. So we want to do our best to create waste diversion. And the only way we could be able to do those things is through this project because it's going to enable us to be able to pilot, get a deeper understanding of the analysis that we are able to extract from through this because it's a 3-month pilot project. So what we could be able to do is to take what we have learned and then take it national.
Go ahead.
the materials that you are focusing on, are they tin, glass, plastic, cardboard?
No, not cardboard.
Okay, so glass, plastic, tin,
yeah, Clorox bottles.
Clorox. Okay,
bottles,
so
those
all
type of-
things
yes.
plastic bottles.
Yes.
All right. And you sort them, you color code them. How are they being sorted?
Well, the sorting is going to take, after we collect, we will have someone who will double check what is in those bags.
Right.
Yes. Then those will be taken to buyers who actually buy those materials, and then those are taken out of the country. In Belize, we don't necessarily do recycling, but we're in terms of that in itself, because you know recycling is basically repurposing that material into another product.
Yes.
But here, what we have major buyers who buy these recyclable materials, and likewise they go and they export to other countries who actually use the items. I think eventually, with innovation, of course, there will be someone who could be able to take up that mantle and to say, you know what, I'm going to invest and recreate certain products based on what they recover here. But the most important thing that we want to be able to focus on is the importance of the process that we want to be able to execute within this project, because source separation is something that we talk about, but we don't necessarily practice.
Yes, and I was going to get into that a bit, because what I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're sort of switching the responsibility to the household in terms of sorting and kind of separating these things. But it's something we talk about, like you said, but it's not necessarily something that we practice. How do you sensitize and educate households in this pilot project for them to understand the responsibility and the role they will play in this project?
It's not also their responsibility, but it's the impact that just being responsible for that aspect.
The habit.
It's the habit that we want to be.
It's a habit you're breaking and changing, essentially.
Yes, but people have to know the reasons as to why you want to be able to break that habit.
The thing is that well, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you'll know more the data than I would, but people do it. We do. We just don't know what to do with it. I'm pretty sure you have a bunch of bottles home and you just don't know what to do with it because they're just there.
Right.
And
you can sell it to more than one.
You can, but then you have, for example, like the Clorox bottle, right? Or wine bottles. I sometimes would give it to people that make oil because they could bottle it and reuse it. But in terms of the plastic bottles, so much plastic bottles.
I like the fact that you brought that up, April, because you see, we have an issue with littering in this country.
Yes, we do.
And one of the reasons we have issues is that those bottles that we see have no value.
Yeah.
So if we could then have a value for those items, when people could actually take it back and get 5 cents or 10 cents on a bottle, you won't see those on the highways. So those are, in fact, looking at that in itself, that's what we call, there's a thing called polluter's principle, right? I mean that you as the polluter have to be able to pay.
Yeah.
So all of those things exist in the solid waste management policy that we have. So like I told you 10 years before, those things were non-existent, but now we have those things, and when it comes to waste management, there's always a challenge that we have to be able to reach. So for example, closure work for dump sites within those 5 municipalities, or 4 municipalities, and including Borough, sorry. That for me, that represents a great deal of what we have been able to accomplish as an authority, because like I said, we went from dump site to transfer station, so now people could be able to see what we do and what we execute, and the importance of what we have been able to do within this country. This environment is a very big thing. I always tell people that it's a great accomplishment for us to have been able to implement solid waste management project one, and thus take a switch that, you know what, there is something that we could be able to do to meet these challenges. So with project 2, that challenge for us is to be able to not do the same old, because what we have is commingled waste, which we're all accustomed to. So within the next 5 years, we want to have people not be accustomed to that and really embrace the fact that we have to start to separate the waste that we generate within our homes and businesses and institutions, because we don't want to be in a situation facing a crisis when it comes to waste disposal.
So just go back to the pilot project to talk a bit about, just explain a bit more how the process will work in terms of perhaps how often will it be collected, where does it go after it's collected, and then if you would, why these two communities?
Well, these two communities, Placentia and Kikaka, they're tourist destinations, of course, including we have our own residential persons who live in these areas. So it was very critical to see how it would work with us as residents, including people within these tourist areas. Many times when I have done consultations, we always have, especially experts who encourage recycling in these communities. So we're going to see how accustomed people are when it comes to wanting to make a significant difference or change within these both destinations that we're doing the pilot project. The process is very simple. What will happen is that we have our campaigners that will go from house to house, introducing specifically what we want them to do. So if you accept being a part of this pilot program, you'll be given a bag. In that bag, whatever you bring from the grocery store and you use for the week, you'll be able to just simply take out the recyclable fraction of what you have bought. So automatically that makes you be cognizant of what you're buying, which will create, you know, that reduction mindset. Maybe I don't really need to buy this whole case or whatever, you know. So through that process now, you'll be able to take those bottles, whatever it is, the tin cans, you rinse them out, you cut off the label if you can, you place them in the bag, because we will actually give the bags. You place them in the bags, then you take them out. We think we'll be able to have that recovery process, because there will be someone that will take them, but it probably will be maybe once every 2 weeks. Because through that process, it will take a while for you to accumulate certain recyclable material. So maybe to every 2 weeks, that person is going to come and they're going to take that bag. When they take that bag, we'll have another person there that will be able to do the other sorting that is necessary, just to ensure that we have what we want. Then through that, we could be able to do our analysis, how much we have collected, et cetera, before those materials are then sold to other buyers.
So these are bags that you'll place right in front of your house. You don't necessarily place them in the bin. I mean, when they're filled, you place them right. You don't necessarily place them in the bin. Let's say you have a huge
you
garbage
place it
drum.
separate from
the
residual waste. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. You're starting Placentia and Kikaka. They really have an opportunity here to set the trend.
Yes.
To be trendsetters in terms of a project that you guys want to launch nationwide.
Yes, and actually we're doing it on April the 22nd, which is this Friday on Earth Day. What the best day to actually do it? Best day to do it. So people could recognize the impact that we want to make in Placentia and in Kikaka, because we want people to be able to introduce themselves to something that is going to be new and beneficial. Like I said, in the next 5 to 10 years, I would want to see this is the way we actually go as a country. As someone who has been to the landfill countless times, I could literally say, you know what, there's something that we could do that will be able to reduce what we have been, the land space that we've been using at the landfill. When I go and I do different presentations across this country, I always tell students that we have to be mindful of the fact that we import a lot of products. What we need to start to do is to think about ways how we're going to take them outside. We cannot just bury them here. We have to create a systematic process of waste diversion that will have our landfill have a lifespan rather than 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is, that we have to continue to look at how we divert these wastes and repurpose these materials, because that is what resource recovery is all about. Recovering the recyclable fraction and repurposing those materials into another product. And the circular economy is the way to go. We cannot just keep on doing the same thing and expect that we're going to have these changes in the next 5 to 10 years. Like I said, we don't want to end up in a situation where we do face a plastic crisis in country.
Right.
So this is the way to actually go to be able to accomplish this through this pilot program.
So it's going to be for 3 months.
Yeah, it's going to be
starting
for 3
April
months. Well, it might be
26th.
over that, but
Yeah.
that's our target for the 3 months, and we might have a little bit extension to it.
I understand the reason why you're doing it in the tourist areas. I'm a little bit curious to see how it would expand into more rural and urban settings, because that your larger families are there. So regardless of, I mean, you said that you'll pick it up maybe once every 2 weeks, but if you live in a family of 8, you'd have to pick it up once a week. Or you'd have to pick it up, you know, I'm just curious to know how you're doing your research on
Well,
where you're selecting your pilot people from.
Like I said, everything, we're looking at how it's going to be like maybe within the first month, because it's actually trial and error.
Right, of course.
This is very new, and we want to be able to make sure that when we actually execute and conclude this project, we could take these findings and actually do it nationally. So all of this will be able to give us the data that we need, because when it comes to, even in terms of the execution of the project and in terms of our own operations, you know, we have to be very critical in our thinking of how we make certain adjustments, especially when it comes to waste management. Because like I told you, people forefront in waste management is just like, whatever, you know, so
Yeah.
we have to be able to make these adjustments as we go along within the project. I think you made mention a while ago about why is it that we were looking at the numbers in terms of maybe we do within 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Everything is based, like I said, it's science. So we have to be able to see if persons will be receptive in actually following the process that we want them to follow. So we cannot just pinpoint, oh, this is what is going to work, because even in the execution of our campaign, we had one vision, other persons have other visions on the island, and we had to collaborate and be able to give and take, receive people concerns, because it's very valuable to listen to people and see what are their concerns and what they could be able to have a very positive and impactful input in their conversation. And then we made those adjustments as we continue to proceed with our campaign. So all of these things, it's, you know, you have to figure it out together. This is where
you have the work of a evangelist and politician in one. I say kudos to you for that. But since we have you here, if you would, I want to bring up a topic just briefly that April brought up earlier in terms of waste management in the and changing this behavior of dumping in some of the rural communities, mostly where traditionally we've grown accustomed to dumping in remote areas. For example, let's say a land way in the back, where you think nobody's monitoring and stuff like that. Now I know not only is it hazardous, but it's also illegal, correct? Can you speak a bit about that?
If you have a dump site that is not sanctioned by the Department of Environment, that means you have created an illegal dump site, and there are penalties and fines if you're caught. Saying that as well, we have what we call since we have executed Solid Waste Management Project 2, there is another aspect. We want to be able to create another project that does involve having drop-off centers in these communities. So eventually those dump sites will be able to face those challenges with those illegal dump sites created at those villages. You have urban villages and you have rural villages. Urban villages are the villages like right on the roadside that are huge, like a Carmelita. Then you have like the rural villages are villages that you have to go 3 miles in. So we want to create what we call drop-off centers. And if we could start source operation at those villages, it will be even better, where you could actually just go to one location and drop off your waste like in a big, huge container. And then we have our trucks could just haul it and take it to the regional sanitary landfill for final disposal. So those things are coming.
Right.
Everything is one step at a time. And why I'm so excited, especially about this pilot project, is that speaking about it and executing it is one thing. So I am seeing the dream, and then that dream is going to become a reality. So when we have concluded and finalized this source separation pilot project to the TC, we'll be able to come with, I could come with the
come back after 3 months until we're again.
Yes, and let people understand how valuable their contribution are. So I want to, once again, I don't know if we're wrapping up.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right.
Your final thoughts.
It's your show,
please.
sir.
Yes.
you begin and you wrap up for us.
Yes, I just want to tell people once again, April the 22nd, this Friday, we're having the launch of the TC. At the Placencia Point in Placencia and in Kikaka is going to also take place at the Children's Park. Okay. So if you want to be a part of it, you could contact myself, Mr. Tyrone Chimilio, Mr. Kenneth Williams, or Kayla Magana at 802-1527 or 828-4864. Get in contact with us, and we could be able to have you partake in what we're doing, because we want to do a small little beach cleanup to launch the campaign. And I also have to big up all of my people in the waste management sector. And I'm not just talking about the Belize Solid Waste Management Authority. I'm talking about across the country, all of these municipalities, the mayors and the workers on the ground. We work hard to ensure that this country is clean. And I would just like to big up my director. She's the person who is behind us in terms of the execution of this project and in terms of our operations, Ms. Lumen Cayetano. What we do sometimes, we have sleepless nights just in ensuring that we have the service that we provide is on par. Our minister, Mr. Curdle Hyde, our CEO, Ms. Nella Tulsi, and our public relations person from the ministry, Mr. Coleman. So I'd like to just thank those people. And with that, thank you guys for having me this morning.
Thank you. Well, you know what? He just wrap up for we.
Yeah, I thought we could cut the show now.
Cut to the show. Yeah, we're good. But you heard it here first, folks. The campaign begins on Earth Day this Friday, April 22nd. So if you're in Kikaka and Placencia, you might just get one of these people from the Belize Solid Waste Management to knock at your door to see if you would like to be part of this new pilot project. I think it's a great initiative. I think Belize is heading in the right direction, so kudos to you all, and I really hope that we get good results. But with that, we're going to take our final break, and then we'll be back for a wrap-up, so stick around.